Thanks to Blade HQ for making today's knife review awesomer.
If you're feeling like you want something big, something beefy, but also something beautiful that really satisfies your knife sweet tooth, well, then the CRKT Foresight, designed by Ken Onion, probably fits the bill. Hey my friends, Late Boy Scout here with my review of the Ken Onion designed CRKT Foresight. A big beefy knife. You wanted it, you got it. That's what Ken Onion says. And that's exactly what this is. A big beefy folder ready for some hard work, some fun work. What a cool knife. And Blade Magazine, by the way, agrees. And they gave it the award for Best Imported Knife of the Year for 2012. So isn't that pretty cool? Featuring the IKBS bearing system, Icona Korth bearing system. That's what that stands for, look it up. It's basically just the awesomest pivot you've ever seen on a knife. It really is. What you've got is actually ball bearings in there instead of some sort of a washer. And it doesn't really matter what kind of washer you put in there, some are better than others, but it's still, a bushing or a washer or whatever. This is actual ball bearings in there. And it is smooth, it is butter smooth. I mean, I just can't imagine a smoother knife, a smoother pivot. Really, really cool. And here's another one. This is the Ken Onion Ripple by CRKT, also featuring that IKBS bearing system. Doesn't mention it on the actual blade, but this does have it. And again, super smooth opening and closing, incredibly fast. I mean, it's just a joy to play with. This is a very affordable knife, by the way, the Ripple. This is the Walmart version of it. You can get different varieties of it, and whatever variety you get, you're going to be very, very happy with. But this video is not about the Ripple. I just wanted to take that second to emphasize that the pivot that they've created there, the Icona Korth one, is amazing, really amazing. And this knife is pretty much worth owning for that pivot alone. I would say it pretty much is. So if you just want to try out a really cool knife with that Icona Korth bearing system for not too much money, I mean, this runs around $80, $90. Okay, that's a chunk of change, but you can spend a lot more on a knife, and that's true. So you can try out that Icona Korth bearing system for about this price, or about that price, I guess, if you really wanted to, and just kind of enjoy it. But let's talk about some of the features on it, in addition to that pivot, which we've been dwelling on for a little bit here. The blade shape, obviously nice and large. The actual size on that blade shape, I have handy here, about 3.5 inches. A good, generous blade length, and nice and wide as well, isn't it? Now that's got a hollow ground blade to it. Obviously, from this point down, that's all hollow ground, meaning that it kind of scoops down instead of going flat, a flat taper. And just a great, beautiful finished look to it with this sweet little curve going on here. Man, that's nice. And of course, the actual edge has got, you might call that a slight recurve, but since it kind of stops being sharpened right around there, and you just kind of have, an unsharpened area from this point down, it's almost not a recurve. Almost not. It's almost like the edge kind of starts there and then just kind of goes out and curves way, way back, if you get what I'm saying. But I think that you would classify this sort of as a recurve knife. Whatever the case, generous amount of belly right here, huge amount of belly. Great for slashing and slicing and kind of doing whatever you choose to and need to do with this knife. Then let's move on down to the handle, which is an incredibly sculpted aluminum handle, and I believe that it's all aluminum. Yeah, that is the handle. It's all aluminum. We're not talking about an aluminum scale on top of a liner. This is the handle, all this aluminum right here, and very nicely sculpted, as I mentioned. Designed for the human fingers, as you can clearly see. And how does it feel? Does it accomplish that? Does it actually wrap your fingers down inside of it? Yeah, pretty nicely. Pretty nicely. Obviously, your fingers are going to kind of wrap over that and not fit exactly in the particular grooves that are given for your fingers, but I tell you what, your index finger really feels nice in there. And those grooves, by the way, are on both sides of the knife. So left-handers, you've got that exact same kind of ergonomics going on. So an incredibly well sculpted and well designed handle, and really nice. I mean, it's just really, really good looking. Once again, it's getting a lot of the same looks, a lot of the same feel that a huge number of Ken Onion knives have, and I'll jump into that here in just a second as we continue talking about the handle. You can tell that it is somewhat full flow through. There is a backspacer here that I believe is a type of a Zytel material, fiberglass reinforced nylon or something like that. You also have a nice little lanyard hole. If you choose to run a lanyard on this particular knife, you can do that. You can disassemble and take this knife down if you choose to. Be very, very careful with that IKBS pivot. Those BBs, they'll go everywhere. I mean, you remember A Christmas Story, right? Yeah. So you can take this down if you need to. I would probably not do it. I think it'll do just fine as it is. By the way, one more thing about that pivot. Really lends itself to perfect centering. Yeah, basically perfect. Almost perfect. Yeah, it's a little slightly off, perhaps, I guess, but very, very good centering. And that kind of continues to work regardless of how much you torque this down to give it the right amount of centering. It'll still be very, very smooth. Just a little side note. So we've talked a little bit about the handle. Let's go on to talk about the pocket clip, which is amazing. Yeah, why is that so amazing? It's just this short little stubby thing. That's why. Look how small it is. That's great, man. That'll pretty much disappear in your pants pocket. If you're wearing khakis, some slacks that kind of have a slash pocket like that, look at that, man. That's pretty much how that's going to drop into your pocket and disappear. Okay? That's amazing. This kind of a large knife completely disappearing in your pocket. That's amazing. Very cool. Very well thought out pocket clip. Of course, it is tip down only. You cannot swap it to this side. Well, actually, I may be wrong about that. I can't say for sure if you can swap it to the other side. I don't think you can. It doesn't look like it. So I think we are stuck with right hand tip down only. Okay, so that's a downside for some of you. Sorry about that, but that's what you get with this knife. Otherwise, if you can live with that, it's a fantastic clip and extremely, extremely well executed. Of course, deployment is by way of this flipper, which does have a little bit of texturing on there to give you a little grip for your finger. And the deployment, as I mentioned before, is super smooth. Super smooth. Of course, it is also a liner lock. Not exactly a liner lock, actually. It's sort of this weird combination, and I don't remember the actual word for it. I'll put it in annotation if I can find that, where they actually sort of mill out some of the handle to put in this, well, that liner, basically. So you've got a little bit of liner material there, that locking material there, that is not really a liner, but is designed to be the lock. Okay, so I think I've said enough about this knife. It's a fantastic knife, and I highly recommend it so far. It is a bit heavy, and I guess for some of us it's kind of pricey. The weight comes in at about 6.3 ounces, and that's no lightweight, but it's not the heaviest one out there either. Now let's go ahead and do some comparing. Let's put on a little knife show here and compare the CRKT Foresight to a number of other knives that I think stack up fairly well to it. First off, here's another Ken Onion designed knife. Check that out, the ZT-0300. And these two knives actually compare very favorably, except in the weight. The 0300 is about 2 ounces heavier, maybe 2.5 ounces heavier, but as far as size is concerned, very, very close. Very close in width, and, sort of the depth and breadth as well. The blade size also very, very similar. Okay, this is S30V, obviously. I mentioned before this is a Kudo Plus. I don't know, maybe I didn't mention that. It is a Kudo Plus steel. On this version of it, which is the first production, subsequent versions will be AUS 8A, I believe. So that's a little comparison there. But looking at those two knives, yes, they do stack up pretty well. And obviously, this is a Ken Onion design. That is a Ken Onion design. And we can really tell, can't we? You can really see some of the hallmarks, some of the trademarks of Ken Onion's design idea and philosophies coming through in both of these knives. So that's pretty cool. His personality really shows in each of these knives. Very cool. So let's put away the ZT-0300 and let's stack up this one against a few others like, well, let's see. Here's one I got handy. There's the Kershaw Piston, and it comes in very close in size. Very, very close in size. I believe the blade is slightly shorter than that CRKT monster. Slightly, only slightly. But it's very, very similar in both size. Weight is not similar at all. I don't have the exact weight for this one handy. Look it up, or I'll put it in annotation, the piston. But it is extremely lightweight compared to the Foresight, and a bit thinner as well. Okay, so you're going to possibly have an easier time EDCing the piston compared to the Foresight. So there's that. Moving on, what are some other blades? Oh, how about a nice Benchmade right here? This is the 707, sorry, the 710. Isn't that right? 710. I get mixed up on the numbers sometimes. That's the 710 McHenry & Williams. How does it stack up against that Foresight? Well, we're looking at a thinner, kind of a slimmer looking knife, okay, but as far as size is concerned, we actually get slightly more blade on that Benchmade than we do with the CRKT knife. Very comparable in handle, size, length anyway. This is G10 as opposed to aluminum. Different locking mechanisms, very different knives, obviously, but I just wanted to kind of put them side by side here for you to compare them. All right, any others we should compare it to? How about a couple, more budget knives? Like here's the, the classic Spyderco Tenacious. And while we're at it, how about the K-bar? No, not the K-bar. Excuse me. That's not a K-bar. That's a Rat Model 1 is what that is. Budget knives comparing to that more expensive knife. Obviously budget steel as well. This is actually, in later versions, the AUS 8 will be the same steel that you get here on the Rat Model 1. So that's something to keep in mind. So after we take these more budget knives off the table, and we could probably compare it also to, how about this Spyderco right here? This is the Endura 4. A much lighter weight knife. This is actually the ZDP 189 steel knife, made in Seki City, Japan. Okay, so what we have with these two are, well, again, a much slimmer knife and very, very close in blade length. Ergonomics, I wouldn't hit either one of these ergonomically. They're both very ergonomic knives. I will give one little hit, I guess, to the Foresight, and that is that there's no real, jimping, texturing up here at all. Actually, it's a purposefully rounded blade up there. Okay, they really went for aesthetics with this thing. Now, as I mentioned before, we want to compare this to a few other Ken Onion offerings from the past. Well, there was the CRKT Ripple. Okay, following some of those very organic or ergonomic lines. How about, what is this? Oh yeah, the Kershaw Scallion. Much smaller knife, but again, ergonomic, organic. I mean, this is very much what Ken is all about, isn't it? That, of course, being the Chive right there. How about the Leak? Also by Kershaw. And there's the Oh So Sweet. Not even close to all the knives that Ken Onion has designed, but a few of the more popular, more standard and well-known ones as of right now. With the Foresight, what you do get is a beautiful, big knife. Now, if that's what you're in the market for right now, if you're feeling like you want something big, something beefy, but also something beautiful that really satisfies your knife sweet tooth, well, then the CRKT Foresight, designed by Ken Onion, probably fits the bill. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been my review of this gorgeous knife. I'm the Late Boy Scout. We'll see you later.